मैं शतरंज हूं, जिसे आप चेस कहते हैं। मैं हूं अ साइलेंट विटनेस टू स्ट्रेटेजिक डांस, जो दो खिलाड़ी खेलते हैं जब आमने सामने होते हैं। मैं विटनेस हूं इन सब बैटल्स का जो इंसान के अंदर चलती हैं पर दिखती नहीं। हर मूव एक प्लान है, हर गेम यूनिक है। ये शतरंज सिर्फ एक खेल नहीं, एक गवाह है उन सभी युद्धों का जो यहां खेले जाते हैं। टुडे kings and queens are replaced by courageous protagonists who have walked the powerful paths chronicled in the bestseller She Rose Amongst Us by Falguni Desai and Dr. Amit Nagpal. Welcome Anupama Vaidya. Welcome Preeti Vyas. Upon me tonight, life itself is gambited. Join me as I witness the game, which is truly the life story of the guests depicted through my game. Each move is a phase of their life where they lost or conquered. Sorry, eventually never lost. Let the game begin.
Welcome to the show. I'm so glad that we're here together doing this.
Same here, reciprocate the feelings.
Yes.
And looking forward to this game of chess with you.
Me too. You know, I think you need to make the first move.
You're sure?
Yes, absolutely. Besides, you're on the white side.
So here's my first move.
Okay.
And since I've made the first move, that means I'm going to pick up and have my first move on you.
Okay.
Fateh karo. Against all odds, Preeti. I read your chapter and absolutely it stands out for you.
Thank you.
Fateh karo. So that sounds an ultimate slogan. So should I assume you've already won the game of chessboard over here?
Absolutely. You know, not just this one, but all the chess games that I've played in my life, I have. Thank you very much. You know, it's not been easy, of course, you know. And the whole idea of Fateh Karo was a diktat from my grandfather, saying, okay, you want to do your own thing, you better go win it. You know, and that's always played in the back of my mind, that whatever I do, I should have a winning attitude. And boy, was I tested. And was I tested again? Was I tested again? But there you are. So luckily for me, I had a little bit of a guiding diktat. You know? My turn. Okay, so let me read a bit from here. During this time, her mentor offered a profound piece of advice. Remember, if you're entrusted with more responsibilities, that is the greatest reward. You know, this struck me so much about you because I was reading your chapter and I thought that this woman is like a mountain goat. You know, she's agile, you know, she doesn't look down and get vertigo. She keeps climbing and she keeps winning. She keeps taking the initiative, and which is the reason why people trust you. You are the go-to person for everyone, right?
Right.
And which is why you're entrusted. And you've gladly taken it over, even though you might have complained a bit, but you did. I mean, look at what your mentor said, and you've obviously taken it to heart. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, Preeti, in fact, I would say it's come to a kind of a point where if I'm present, it's assumed that I'm responsible for everything, okay? This is how I've really been able to explore the gift of life and keep on discovering my potential. And I would feel blessed to be able to get this kind of a mantra from my mentor and keep on continuing to work on it. I look forward to taking these responsibilities with a great authenticity as I carry myself.
Wonderful. I love the word authenticity. I think if you're not authentic, you can never win at anything.
And that's very much you, Preeti. So it's my turn now. And in my natural style, life's been tough, in which I've had to take steps forward, steps backward, और घोड़ा जैसे 2.5 चाल आगे चल सकता है, 2.5 चाल पीछे चल सकता है. That's been me, taking step back again and again. But what I noticed unique when I was reading your chapter, and I'm going to read it out to you beautifully. You write out over there, I never stepped back from a challenge. If I didn't know how, I'd just learn a new skill. When asked to design publications, I would plunge myself into stunning international magazines to learn from and become the first commercial publication designer in India. Wow, that's amazing. My journey started with the Taj magazines to later notch up dozens of magazines, newspapers, and coffee table books. That's so unique, where my life has been about taking step back many a times to be able to bounce forward. I see you have a very different style with which you have kept on moving ahead.
You know, Anupama, in some ways, my life has maybe, it has always forced me to take steps, not just back, sideways, whichever ways. I mean, it's been a pretty nasty turn of events, you know, like my first employee coming to an office which burnt down, okay. So, I mean, I had to literally sort of move sideways, retreat, all of that, you know. But luckily for me, I have this sort of a personality that says, well, so what, you know. I have a responsibility to lots of people in my family, to myself. I can only move forward, okay. And therefore, I teach myself. The other part of me is that I don't want to compromise, okay. I don't want to take shortcuts. I must feel it in my heart. I must believe that whatever I'm doing is fantastic, it's wonderful. At least I must try my level best, you know. So I see challenges as, yes, they're challenges and they're difficult and they make me very afraid. But I say that, so what? Let's try to find a way, and I managed to do that. Like I did for the magazines, nobody had ever taught me, but I taught myself. Later on in life, I was asked to direct music videos. I'd never done it, but I taught myself. And so on and so forth. I designed sets for movies. I did all sorts of, you know, graphics, for example. For, you know, remember the first film, Umrao Jaan?
Yeah.
I did the branding for that, you know. So I've always managed to sort of push myself. But it doesn't mean that I'm not afraid. You know, it doesn't mean that I'm not vulnerable. But I keep a positive attitude. And I remember that I owe it to myself and to lots of people who are dependent on me.
Wonderful. I think so. That's so important to keep the focus going forward. It's like if I have to relate it to my life, I kept on seeing that the windshield ahead is bigger than the rear view mirror. Okay. And so while the rear view mirror has kept on teaching me lessons, and which I can see with you also, I think so that focus on going forward and looking at the bigger picture has kept us intact, has given us the inner strength, and to really, really be resilient and face all those difficulties, challenges, or whatever you call it.
Yeah.
And we convert them into the best of the opportunities.
Absolutely. You know, you can never walk into the future looking backwards, okay? Because then all you do is get depressed.
Sure.
You know, if you look forward, then what has happened in the past becomes an experience. It becomes a learning curve.
Sure.
You know, so you really, really have to push yourself ahead. It doesn't mean that you don't have your vulnerable moments, your fearful moments. Of course you do. We're human beings, you know. Sure. But it's just a sort of inner engineering part. It's just a little bit of a switch that you have to have that keeps you positive. And then you realize that, yes, that's great, I did it. Feels fantastic, you know.
Sure.
And that fuels the next positive wave.
Absolutely. And I think so with that, we should have your move now.
Okay.
Because there's something that comes to my mind while you're making the move. You mentioned about the past being experiences. And there's another thought that's really helped me in my life through all the adversities, and that's about thinking about pain as it being inevitable. Whatever happened was inevitable. But do we make it into a suffering? That was a choice.
That's
I think so. We made it into an experience between us.
Yes,
right?
yes. It's the choices we make,
Yes.
always.
And rather than suffering, we kept the pain, we took the lesson and kept on moving ahead. So let's move ahead with your move. You've played the bishop.
I have, because things have to move sideways sometimes. you know, and that's fine because life does always move sideways. It doesn't tell you which direction it's going to go. It's definitely not straight. Okay, life's not a straightforward journey, as you well know. You know. So, well, over to you.
Yeah, with that bishop, I remember, and I think so you must have read that in my chapter.
I have, and let me read it to our viewers, which is that in 2005, I hit rock bottom with just 15,000 rupees. Goodness, 15,000 rupees to my name and a 4-year-old daughter. I've been there, so I can tell you I've sometimes had to also wonder where my next meal was coming from, you know. It was a moment of reckoning, one that demanded every ounce of strength, resilience and adaptability I could muster. I so hear you. Tell us a little bit about that, Anupama. How that happened, because it's important, you know, because no professional journey is complete without a personal nuance to it.
Sure.
So this has become, this obviously has been a turning point for you, a pivotal moment in your life. And at this point in time, you must have decided something about what your next move should be.
So actually, when I took this decision, Preeti, it was about knowing that I had to do something different. That I didn't know where life was going to take me. I didn't have a full-time job. I had a daughter for whom I wanted to live. And I knew that I had to take the courage to just step out. And that's where with whatever I had, I just stepped out and began life all over again. Started a search for a job, started kind of gathering my threads together with my daughter, no financial support from anyone. And that's where my parents stood by me, morally, physically. But financially, I had to gather myself back on track. Hard work, smart work, deep work, everything put together, along with the support of the family, my parents, my daughter, Ishita, we all walked that journey.
Very harsh. Very
It was, as you rightly said, you never knew where's the next meal going to come. But I'll tell you one very important thing that happened is, right from my childhood, we come from a very, very humble family, very simple background. What you see today of me is not what we were around 30, 40 years back. The only thing my parents invested and brought that into me was a very strong value system and a dedicated efforts in education. So my education, that whatever we had poured my heart and soul into getting those degrees, and it was not just about reading books, it was about understanding and getting the wisdom out of it. And that was what helped me in my turning point.
Yeah,
Completely.
I completely hear you. You know, I've had similar moments in my life as well. First of all, I was born in a very wealthy family, but later on it came to very humble sort of situations, you know, so the wealth was all gone. Luckily, my mother had made sure that we all get educated, learn to stand on our own feet. And unlike the patriarchal family that I was born into, where women were basically just supposed to, you know, get married, you know. She said, no, you have to go study and you have to learn to stand on your own feet, which was great. But unfortunately for me, I was a middle child. And I was artistic in a family where everybody wanted to be an engineer and a doctor, and which my siblings have very happily provided, but I could not, you know. So I had absolutely no self-confidence. Unlike you were born with that initiative. I had zero self-confidence, okay? I still have to battle my imposter syndrome. So it was like, what will I ever do? I mean, nobody believed in me. My family didn't believe in me. And I think the belief system has to start at home, you know. And I think almost everything that I have done in my life is to prove to my parents that, hey, I count, you know. So that kind of became the sort of the propeller. And that helped me. The value system, as you mentioned, you know, luckily that stood by my side. And the several new beginnings and the teda meda moves life throws at you, it's always a googly. It's always a googly, you know. Like, for example, you know, my first employee coming to a burnt office. Thereafter, I have a situation when everything starts going very well. and my daughter gets a life-threatening illness, and she gets, anorexia, bulimia, and I had to literally just chuck everything to look after her, okay, which led to my business collapsing because a lot of people took advantage of that situation. And thereafter we have COVID. I mean, so it's just one thing after the next, and of course these are the big disasters. They're always small disasters, as you well know. So, life is just always, it throws moves at you which are zigzag, So it's what stands by you are your value systems which help you make the right choices. And what's really, really important, and I think the game of chess actually tells us, is that when I will take your chess piece, okay, is when I will tell you the next point. Go on.
Yeah, Preeti, and when you were talking about the game of chess, and I think so when you played the bishop and you were talking about how we have to kind of go sideward and all, I was thinking about the number of times my career, my life has thrown me off track or given me a very different, like a move from moving from managing human resources to a corporate marketing, never been there, done that, just 3 years out of college, but brought a lot of newness and freshness to the way I looked at each and everything. And as that bishop, in the same way, there's one very interesting thing that happens on the chessboard, and that's where you're able to pull out you. And that teaches me, I remember in that downturn, I got a wonderful insight from one of the mentors again, and I would say I've learned a lot from my mentors through my life, where a lot of learning, unlearning, relearning, being beaten down, etc. And he gave me this message, and I think so that's where my introduction, a greater, deeper introduction to Dharma also happened. Well, I'd read the Bhagavad Gita when I was expecting my daughter. The real application happened in real time when he was telling me, why are you being so naive and so kind? If somebody is doing wrong to you, your ability to stand and be able to stop that cunningness with you is also very important. I've never been an initiate of cunningness, okay? That's not where my initiative is. It's always the goodness and selflessness. But if somebody is doing it to you, you have to stand for the right values and be able to stop the person doing wrong, whether to you or your ecosystem or to this entire society. And that's what that fairness comes all about. For me, life has been in that direction.
Totally, whilst we cut each other's egos. And I think one of the most important lessons to learn here is that the ego has to go. Yeah. Okay? If the ego doesn't go, you stop learning. True. Because then you don't recognize that you need to learn. True. And learning comes from everywhere, and you really need to be non-judgmental, and you have to learn from your juniors, your peers, your seniors, from the world, from politics, from society, from culture, from everywhere. And that's really what I believe that is very, very important. And he brought in Dharma as a discussion, and I relate to that because in my formative years, I read the Bhagavad Gita, and it just very accidentally came to me, and I read it, and the first opening of that, in fact, it was excerpted, a mantra was excerpted from the Bhagavad Gita, which actually said, Sarva dharmam parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja aham tvam sarva papebhyo moksha ichchami ma shucha. And to me, I just dissolved in tears because all Krishna said was, forget everything, come to me, I'll sort you out, And that kind of actually became my lightning rod, okay? And it stayed with me. And the matrix of dharma is actually what gives me the resilience. Okay, it gives me the strength because I've tried to completely abdicate to that energy within me, that I feel that Krishna is everywhere, so is divinity within me. And if I seek for answers, I seek for them inside. I seek for solutions, but they might be creative, they might be anything, but it all comes from inside. And I want to talk a little bit about this because we're living at a time where people are completely sort of consumed by sort of anxiety situations. people are going through a tremendous amount of depression. And I was thinking that the kind of things which have happened to me and happened to you, where did that strength come from? And at least for me, I can honestly say it's only come from there. You know, others may have other solutions, but at least for me personally, it's come from here, you know. And that, of course, led to a whole bunch of other studies and so on, and, you know, one can kind of go on and on about it. But the underlying matrix of dharma is really what one wants to build one's life on. Now, that doesn't mean that you must always be nice and kind and, you know, be a pushover. No, it doesn't teach you that. It teaches you vivek buddhi, it means teaches you discrimination, where you should behave, how, where you should say, where you should not say, where you should give, where you should not give. Somebody has to be deserving of your kindness, of your generosity, etc. It's not a free for all. Okay? But if you don't have that rootedness, and if you don't have that vivek buddhi, the sense of discrimination of right and wrong, you can completely fall apart, you know.
True, Preeti. And I think so that's the wisdom that we kind of keep on applying to ourselves. Like in the game of chess, when you're playing this entire thing, you think ahead 3 or 4 moves, 5 moves, and start creating scenario plannings. Okay? And I think so that wisdom, while you have the knowledge, you have the understanding, I think so the real part of life for that inner peace and strength that we have worked upon is to be able to get these alternate thoughts.
Yes.
To say, okay, if I do something, what could be the repercussions of it?
Totally.
Okay? And looking at the future, being able to design it rather than just living it randomly. And I think so in my life, I would say this wisdom has come through all the experiences. It's come through the way we've been brought up, and that ego part of it, which I would say that values has always taken away the ego. But one thing in life that I realized is, you know, when we kind of talk about ego is that confidence should not go. Ego should go away, the humility should remain, but the confidence cannot be taken away.
Quite right.
Many a times I've seen that because that ego did not play, I did suffer of being taken for granted. The humility was misunderstood. Okay? And that's where I realized that I have to be able to show my confidence not as an arrogance but as a humility. And that kind of a transformation through this learning, unlearning process that I've gone through, relearning, is an amazing thing. In fact, 7-8 years back when I established something called as an innovative learners, it is about spreading this entire thought process of we are a continuous learner lifetime, and that selflessness with which Sri Krishna talks about it, karmanye vadikaraste mafaleshu tadachanam. I think so that became my mantra of selflessly keeping on giving. In college, I used to distribute my notes, and some of my friends used to say, why are you doing that? And I know because I kept on distributing, I never was at loss.
Yeah.
The blessings kept on coming.
I so relate to that. You know, I was asked to, at one point in time, asked to do a column on design. And I said, you know, I think I need to promote the fact that creativity is very important to everybody's lives, you know. And I started to feature other creative people. And lots of people said that, why are you giving credit to others? Okay, and that's very generous of you. And the thing is, I'd never thought about it like that. You know, I saw myself as larger than my profession, and I felt that something needs to happen for the nation, for the country, but it's very important that people understand the importance of the creative aspect of design and how it helps in design thinking and solutions, you know. And
the designomics.
And designomics. And you know, I don't think I suffered anything for it at all. You know, it wasn't like I was giving myself away.
Dene se kam nahi hota hai.
It just happened that somebody said, actually you've just elevated yourself. And I think perhaps that's what needs to happen. You know, so you must know where to be generous, and obviously you must know when you have to be a little bit careful about who you give what to, you know. But talking about designomics.
I want to listen something on that, because when I was reading your chapter and I was saying, okay, designomics, I really need to really know better about you. You're so uniquely coming out of it, you know, which those pages may not do justice. I'm so blessed to listen to you right now.
That's really very kind of you, you know. But designomics actually has a very lovely origin. You know, I was part of a delegation that went to Tokyo, and I was part of the India Design Council. And we were trying to collaborate with the Japanese government to bring the design award, called Good Design Award, to India. And we went to study the origins of that. And you know what the origins of the Good Design Award was? Post Hiroshima in the 50s.
Oh.
Now I'm thinking here the government is actually instituting an award for Japanese products. Okay, why? Because they understood that good design will help Japan become more competitive in the world and will pull them out of the kind of economic disaster it went into post Hiroshima. I mean, just look at the thinking.
What a profound thinking.
What a profound thinking. You know, I said, let's bring that back. And of course, that was what the award was supposed to be doing, but I'm so impatient and I really want everything quickly. So I said, whilst the government will do whatever it has to, I want to do something more. So I launched a Designomics platform, which is a leadership platform. And I said, I want to give a design award to people in business. Designers know the importance, okay? So let's actually talk about captains of industry. So I actually interviewed, you know, Anand Mahindra and Kumar Mangalam Birla and, you know, all the important business heads who had actually used design to improve their bottom line because they saw it as a business enabler. And I said, that's what I should be doing. You know? So designomics is kind of design thinking for the nation, design thinking for businesses, and design thinking for our own lives. You know? So that's what it's
And with the design, actually, I can relate to the work when I stepped out to kind of start Los Aurigas. And Los Aurigas, the meaning is the charioteers.
I love the name.
And in Spanish and in Latin, it's called the charioteers. And the reason to put it is to be the sarthi.
Yes.
Okay. And when I handhold the small and medium enterprises, the biggest thing that is missing is the design. Okay. They need to evolve. They have wonderful ideas and thoughts with which they have emerged. The design piece of it is missing. And the way we have kind of handled all the adversities and designed our lives and shaped our own selves, it's so fulfilling to work with them to help them now get into a design way of it. So I'm really going to look forward to say evolve with the design and get going on the game.
Yep. Okay, I'm giving you a check. And I go for the king.
Ah, oh, wow, she's already got my king.
Listen, we're queens. We always get the king. That was great.
Fateh karo, you've done the fateh karo.
Okay, well.